let's talk about Miami real quick because they are a team that they've gotten so much love on this podcast. We should start a Spanish language podcast to really just reach all of our fans. They finished third at Major 4. I believe they finished third at Major 1, if I'm not mistaken, as well. The two top three finishes this season on land. They end up finishing really, really high in the standings, like the season standings, especially considering where we thought they would end up. They get fifth place in the standings. They jump Carolina, and honestly, that fifth place spot is looking pretty good. Vancouver kind of keep the way that they're playing, but Miami, they, especially that LAT match, that was like the one where I was kind of taken back by it because I fully expected LAT not to roll over Miami because Miami's been very good in search. So I thought it would probably be a 3-1 win for the Thieves. And it just it just didn't really end up mattering all that much because LAT wins the first search and Miami wins both hard points in the series, which is just baffling to me that that could even happen to the Thieves, who are, I believe, statistically the best hard point team, certainly one of the strongest hard point teams just in general, like regardless of the matchup. But Miami wins map 1, map 4, and map 5 in 6-2 Hacienda Cert to advance to the winners. I just, like I said, I was stunned by that result. Of course, afterward we get the, like, I don't know, aches and nade shot kind of. It wasn't like that dramatic, but it was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I haven't seen this happen in a while. Scrap
Yeah.
and Super go face to face. I don't know exactly what was said. I don't know if it was just Scrap got pissed that Super maybe was talking a little bit of shit after the win. Obviously, Scrap got the final laugh. He got in Super's face a little bit after LAT eliminated Miami later in the tournament. But either way, Miami finishing top three again. What about their contender status? Is that something that, to me, it seems a bridge too far, right? I'm hesitant to say anybody outside of FaZe LAT are true contenders. Vancouver, we'll talk about them. Before this tournament, I thought they were true contenders.
Yeah.
Anybody else kind of seems like that's maybe a little too early. But Miami, they've actually had these performances. They beat LAT. They're one of the few teams to do so. Does that change how
Yeah.
you view Miami in terms of, actually contending for champs?
It does, and that's really, if you didn't say that, that would have been my answer here. Is just like the fact that I think is really, maybe it might have been at, no, Major 2 Miami struggled, so maybe it was Major 1 and Major 3. I'm pretty sure at two majors this year though, LAT like 3-0 smoked Miami in less than 30 minutes. Um I feel like it definitely happened at Major 3, and I feel like it happened at another event too, but just off the top of my head, like I don't know exactly, but there have been some lopsided matches in that series until these qualifiers, and Miami beat LAT in the Major 4 qualifiers too, and that was kind of like, a little bit of an eye opener because that's LAT and Vancouver both started 0-2. Um, schedule wise, they had some tough matchups in there, but nonetheless, neither of us were expecting that. Had at the start of the Major 4 qualifiers, where literally Vancouver and LAT had just played in the grand finals of Major 3, right? So, um, that was a little fishy. And then the fact that, similar to the Optic and Toronto conversation we were just having, the fact that Miami's able to do it again on land and beat LAT on land again at this event, that's like, that's where, at least, not even like, based on the way Miami's been playing lately, I definitely think they're a better team than Optic, but like, in terms of like ranking contenders or whatever, this whole narrative we've had for the show so far, Optic not having that win over a FaZe or an LAT recently, whereas Miami does have that win over LAT recently, that like, pushes them up a little bit further or closer, I guess, to those top two in my eyes. And for me personally, like we talk about it over the years, just that S&D, it speaks to me. And when a team is as good at S&D as Miami has shown since Super's been fully integrated into the roster, that's always gonna, have me feel in some sort of way heading into a tournament as big as Champs, where if it comes down to a game 7 search, and Miami is playing, a team that's not FaZe or LAT in the finals, like I'm probably gonna lean Miami just because of the search, and the way we've seen them uh, perform in that mode so far since Super joined the team on a full time basis. So, um, really overall for Miami, like you said, we have sung their praises over the last couple months since Super's been added to the team. Don't have to, sound like a broken record here, but I do think that that whole uh the, I guess for lack of a better term, the saga there at Major Four with Miami beating LAT and then LAT beating Miami, that is like, you know, in terms of the trash talking stuff, that's really cool and sets up a narrative for a potential rematch at Champs. And if we get that dynamic that we saw last year of like the teams facing each other, like there could be some cool clips out of that too. But just in terms of like pure gameplay too, like the fact that these teams have had some very tough matchups recently, and it hasn't been one sided end result like we were talking about with Atlanta and Optic. Like they've had some close maps, but FaZe have won all the series. In terms of Miami and LAT, at least Miami has a couple of series wins to show for it too over the last couple of weeks. Um, I think that makes Miami a little bit of a potentially a scary team for um, really, I mean, they beat LAT, so you can't say they aren't a scary team for them. But I guess just in general, they're a team that heading into the season, if we were having this conversation, 6-7 months ago, and we're saying Miami is going to be a scary team heading into Champs, we're probably like
No chance.
laughing it off. But yeah, so it's not that seems to be my, and I had this conversation on this when Heretics fully entered the CDL, bringing up sort of that similar narrative to when they qualified for the CWL, and like people weren't taking them seriously, and they were able to go on these runs. It wasn't resulting in championships, but they were causing some upsets and making some stuff happen. That seems to be similar to where they are right now, but they're even better just because they're getting to the championship Sundays. They just haven't made it to the finals yet, but it feels like they could be getting closer. And if I had to pick one team right now that I'm for lack of a better way to describe it, like LAT last year, where they you know go on these runs at the most important tournaments of the year, and they get third at Champs and second at EWC.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. I think I said that right.
Yeah, I think so.
That's like, for lack of a better way to describe it, maybe that's where Miami, like a team that hasn't been in the finals this year, that could do some damage at Champs and EWC. Miami is like probably at the top of the list for me right now.
Yeah, I think that is a good shout with LAT last season, where they were just unexpected. I think we always kind of thought, they're not on that level. They're not on, Optics level. They're not on LAT's level, or not LAT, Phase's level. Like they're not a championship contender, but they're able to get there or get close to there. And I was just looking it up while you're talking. Before Major Four, LAT and Miami actually have played every single major so far this season, and LAT before Major Four had won every single matchup. I believe Major One, they beat them, I think, twice if I'm not mistaken. I think they won in the winners bracket and then eliminated them in losers finals to advance the grand finals to play FaZe, which is exactly how it worked out this time again. Major Two, I believe Miami started in the losers bracket, and that's when Boston beat LAT, and LAT dropped down to, I think, absolutely brutalize the Heretics. And shortly thereafter, we saw Super come into the lineup, and it's kind of been different. Miami did lose to them in Major 3, if I'm not mistaken, again. And then, of course, Major 4, they face each other twice in the winners bracket and again in the losers finals, with Miami actually picking up that win. And I thought this win, granted they did lose again, and whatever the record is, I'm sure it's not great. Like even on land, like it's whatever 1-5 now. So obviously that's not great in terms of Miami. At that same point, they have one win over the Thieves on land. This is a team that has been to 3 grand finals and won 2 of them. So I think that's pretty good. They've also beaten Atlanta FaZe on land. They beat them. They eliminated them from Major 3 in the losers bracket. They won Game 5. They knocked them out, I think, in losers quarterfinals, I want to say. Again, FaZe has been to 3 grand finals, and they've won 2 of them. So they have wins over both of these top 2 teams on land. I don't think anybody else can say that, because Vancouver, they've beaten FaZe on land, but I don't believe they've beaten LAT. I mean, LAT and FaZe have beaten each other once on land at least, so there's that. But yeah, I don't think, maybe the Boston breach. I don't know. Like Boston beat LAT, but it feels like something Boston might have been able to pull off. I don't remember Boston beating Atlanta, but it might have happened at some point this season. But the point is, Miami has been in positions that not many, if any, teams have been in this season. So it would be foolish, I think, of either of us or anybody in the community to underestimate what they're able to do at Champs. Again, I'm not going to pick them over FaZe, over LAT. I think those 2 teams are above the rest. But Miami has as good of a shot as anybody else. And if FaZe has the performance they did at Major 3, where they lose in round 1 and then they kind of have to fight back through the losers bracket, Miami is a great pick to make it to grand finals at that point, which would be astounding. Like that would kind of be historic for them, because I don't know, like an all Spanish team making it to Champs grand finals. And obviously this is a long shot. I'm just kind of wish casting, I guess, at this point, but that would be pretty historic. It would be a huge moment for the organization, obviously, and it would be proof of concept like nothing else they've seen before. It would be something that Vegas Falcons could only dream of doing, and having this roster of all Saudi players make it that far in the championship tournament. So Miami has, to this point, surprised a lot of people, and I'm not gonna, let myself be too surprised if they have another great performance at Champs.